What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Easter Pod. I'm your host, Corey Easterday, and on today's episode, we are chatting with the one and only Brian Lafontaine. Brian is an actor. He's been doing it for 30 plus years. It was so cool to connect with Brian for this conversation, to sit down in person and just kind of talk through his IMDb page a little bit, talk through his career. He's been involved with a lot of really cool projects, a lot of major film and TV productions that I guarantee most of you have seen. You've probably seen him on your screen and may not have even known it, but Brian is a local creative here in Charlotte, and he's been in the area for a long time. He's been really steeped in the creative community. He does acting. He's a public speaking coach, just involved in all kinds of really cool projects. So I don't want to spoil it too much. I'll let you check out my conversation with Brian and dive into that. And what's really cool about Brian too, and why I was glad he and I were able to connect in person, because I think we first got connected on social media, on Instagram, and I've kind of followed his career a little bit, and I recognized him from some of the TV shows that I've watched over the years. So I share some of that during our conversation. But it was when we started following each other on Instagram, I was like, oh my gosh, I know him from the projects he's been a part of. But he was so generous with his time and his storytelling and sharing like behind the scenes info, sharing a lot of wisdom. And it was just really cool to hear him be so generous with sharing his wisdom and insight and a lot of the kind of in-depth stuff that he's learned through being a creative, through being an actor over the course of multiple decades, a lot of the lessons and stuff like that. So whether you're somebody that's in the film and TV industry or in any kind of production, on screen, behind the scenes, whatever, or you're a creative or you're just somebody that likes to think deeply about what it means to be human and to be creative and our time on planet Earth, this conversation with Brian is definitely for you. You will learn a lot, just like I did. And personally, I'm excited to go back through and listen to my conversation with Brian. It was just so cool to connect, and I know you'll enjoy our chat a lot. And as always, the Easter Pod, our mission, we're striving to bring you stories of rad humans that inspire you to engage the world with creativity and hope. Brian is absolutely one of those humans. And my guest last week, the last episode 33, director, film producer, writer, creator, and star of the new web series Abnormal Fixation, my friend John Kenneth Muir, who I actually got connected with through Abnormal Fixation. I'm able to be a part of that project and play my kind of first acting role as the mysterious professor, that character. So go ahead and check out Abnormal Fixation on YouTube. And I think there's 3 or 4 episodes out now. Watch that. But it was just so cool to connect with John as well, have him on the show, talk about Abnormal Fixation, talk about his career as a literary critic, writing more than 34 books, doing past projects that have gained some traction on the production side. It was cool to connect with John. He also similarly shared a lot of wisdom, not just about, film, TV, production, all that kind of stuff, but just about creativity and about life. So go ahead and check out my conversation with John. Check out the past episodes too. Every episode, every guest I've had on, I go into it with the mindset that I want it to be timeless, that you could listen to it, today in 2025, an episode from 4 years ago, and it carries kind of the same resonance. So I believe the show accomplishes that. So go ahead and check those out. And if you're digging the show, if you like the Easter Pod, you're a first-time listener, you've listened to a few episodes, you can follow us at the Easter Pod across all social platforms. Subscribe on your podcast platform of choice so you never miss an episode. Obviously, leave a rating, review, share with friends, social media, all the things. The feedback, the community of the show always really means a lot. And obviously helps the show. Shout out to Easterday Creative at Easterday Creative, easterdaycreative.com for kind of joining forces with the Easter Pod. That's the business that my wife, Megan, and I own. So check out Easterday Creative. Special thanks to my friend Speak Seldom for creating the music for this episode, and to my friend JD Laird and his company Token for helping to produce it. You can check out Token's work by visiting tokencreative.co. And if you want to check out all the stuff I'm involved in, the podcast, nonprofit work, comedy, Easter egg creative, playing music, whatever, you can follow me at the Easter Dude. And of course, Brian gives us information at the end of the episode. Be sure to check out Brian Lafontaine. You can follow him on social media. Go to his website. It's brianlafontaine.com. You can kind of learn all about the projects he's involved in, his public speaking coaching, all that stuff, visiting his website. Follow Brian on social media. Again, he gives all that info at the end, so stay tuned. And check the show notes. We always make sure the show notes are updated with all the links you need from this episode. And yeah, I think that pretty much covers everything. I mentioned this last week, but I started trying to improv the intro a little bit, so I think we're good. I think we're covered. I think we're ready to dive into my conversation with Brian. Thank you for listening. Thank you for connecting with myself and with my guests and with the show. You are the creative fuel that encourages me to keep doing this. So thank you. And without further ado, my conversation with Brian Lafontaine. So I generally try to do a good bit of research and prep for each guest on the Easter pod, especially when it's a newer friend and connection like my guest today. Got to stay on point and be a good host, right?
Right.
Need to be prepared. Unlike the, 20 minutes or so leading up to actually recording and all that we had to deal with. But we're here, we're doing it. And last night I was researching for this episode and I went down easily one of the longest rabbit holes in show history. Like, it has to be the record, honestly. He's a public speaking coach, actor with 30 plus years of experience, voiceover artist, storyteller, self-described creative crackpot, which I absolutely love, and so much more. And I do mean so much more, with a resume the size of California, or New York if you like.
There you go.
Whichever entertainment state. Brian Lafontaine, thank you for overwhelming me in the most delightful fashion. Welcome to the Easter Pod. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. I'm so glad to be here. Thanks so much for having me. That's crazy that you ended up going down a rabbit hole. I mean, I guess there's stuff on the internet that's out there that I'm not even aware really that's there. So I guess looking back with the way that you kind of reminded me, I'm like, oh yeah, I did do that. I did do that. So I'm a little at a loss for words, so we're really screwed in this podcast interview if I don't talk. So, this is really kind of a surprise for me that all that information was out there for you to get lost in.
It is out there. I also will say, I don't know if it's a flex or a toot my own horn kind of situation, but I actually was hanging out with a friend today I was like, oh yeah, I was aware of your work like 8 months ago. And they were like, wow, how did you find it? I'm just very aware. I'm very in tune. Mm-hmm. I'm very online because of my job and other things.
Right.
So I just it's intuitive for me to go down these rabbit holes and be like, all right, Brian seems like a cool guy. He's done a lot of media. He's got a lot of stuff out there. Be a great guest for the pod. Let me see what I'm getting into a little bit. And it was just, I bit off more than I could chew, I think, in the best way possible, honestly. Like, I don't know if any of your other previous podcast hosts have done this. Maybe I'm just the weirdo, but I watched all the clips on your website. Mm-hmm. And part of it was, if I may, I promised myself I wouldn't start the episode by fanboying, but I'll do it a little bit because we could all use the ego boost every now and then.
Go ahead.
Yeah, you're like, oh, stop, as you wave me on.
Right.
Yeah. But I did not, when we first got connected, I think literally, it was on Instagram, we started following each other. I think literally the first thing I said to my wife was, Andrew Wade from Ozark is following me on Instagram.
You're welcome. You're welcome. It's my pleasure to be one of your many followers, Corey. It's fantastic that you even know the character name that I played on Ozark. That's very flattering. There are very few people who actually are able to pull that out of the the random bit of trivia that that was my name on the show for the 2 episodes that I was on there. 2 very critical episodes, by the way.
And
very critical.
Extremely important to the plot. Extremely. Yes. Very much so. I mean, well, and both your scene, it was 2 scenes, right? In aggregate?
All right, if we're going to get in this, there were several. There was the one big scene with me and Laura Linney in episode 7, and then in episode 8, I actually had a few because there's a scene with her and I where she's walking me through everything before the big campaign party and that they're going to throw for me, and then there's the party itself where there's I'm there quite a bit, and then I even do this whole campaign speech before her crazy brother shows up and ruins the whole party. So I'm in there a lot.
Is there deleted footage out there? Did they?
No, all that's there. It's just those are the 2 most prominent scenes were the ones that you're talking about.
So those are the ones that you selected out to.
Yeah. I was going to say, because
actually watched. I remember watching the episodes recently, and I thought you were in there quite a bit.
I was.
Okay.
I was.
But those are just the 2 that are floating around online.
Yeah, that are the bigger showcase pieces.
That makes a lot more sense. I'm glad for the clarification because I also wasn't sure. I've friends that are actors. I know people. No, but I know sometimes things get cut or you don't know what's the final product.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
So I'm sure you have a fair bit of that, things that are in the cutting room.
Oh man. Yeah, well, you want to talk about something that hasn't really been covered in other podcast interviews? That's a big one. You want to talk about the heartbreak and the disappointment? Sure, this can be the heartbreak interview. Because if you look at my resume, I've been fortunate in the world of television, but in the movies, oh man, no. It's sucked. I've been fortunate and lucky just to be able to work in it. And, I try to be a humble guy in this industry that is so ego-driven. And I have been able to be in some films, which any other actor would kill to trade places with me. I'm well aware of that. But when you look from a work standpoint at the number of auditions that I've had, or a number of close calls that I've had, or actual movies that I shot, that I got booked in and then was cut out of. Oh, I've got a horrible batting average. I legitimately did not make it to the quote-unquote big screen until The Hate U Give came out. And that was 2014. I think that was 2014 when that came out. 2014, 2016, something like that. And it had gotten so bad. My track record was so bad with the films, with the major motion pictures, that I stopped asking people to come see the movie with me because I would be like, my scene would supposedly come up, and it's like, where are you? You're not there. And I'm there with friends, and I'm not in the movie. And it just became really, really heartbreaking. It was just, it was tough to take for a long time. I had a run, where there are waves. It's just something in the water, or just mathematics, or whatever it is, where you kind of get on a run where it's like, hey, I got a few hits in a row, and it's like, look at me, I'm doing it. I'm a working actor. I had 2 movies, 2 feature films, like legit feature films. One was a movie with Joseph Fiennes and Elizabeth Shue. And another one was a movie with Rachel Lee Cook, if you remember Rachel Lee Cook from, what was that?
She's All That?
She's All That, yes. When she was still a well-known actress. I think she's kind of faded out of the business since then or whatever. But I did a movie with her. And both of those were in the same year within just a few months of each other. And this is back when movies, it took a long time for them to do post-production and shoot it still on film, and it took a year and a half for the thing to come out. Waiting all that time, and it ended up that both movies were being released in the same week, on the same Friday, and I got cut out of both of them.
How's that even possible?
I don't know, but I'm taking it personally still. After all these years, I'm taking it personally.
We were talking before we got on about unreleased content of other media you've done, and I did not know this was a thing that just follows you around like the plague.
It's been terrible. It really, really has. It was the hardest thing. Thank God for the world of TV that I was still able to succeed in that. And, television's a little bit different than the movies in that respect, where, they are the writers for TV are writing for that time frame, whether it be a half an hour show or a 1 hour long show. So the scripts are a little bit more formulaic in that way. But with movies, you can have Citizen Kane where it's 4.5 hours long in the first cut, and they're like, yeah, that needs to be cut down by an hour and a half. So something's got to go, and it's usually done way, way after everything's been done. And of course, 99 times out of 100, it has nothing to do with you or your performance. It has to do with what did we do too much of that's going to help push the story along that we can afford to get rid of. And it's like, yeah, you were great, but we don't need it. Now, that's it's no consolation whatsoever. It's kind of like, it's not you, it's me. No, it's me. It's really me.
How often does that work in a relationship?
Right. So,
it must be a little bit me. Are you?
Yeah. So I've had a little bit more success since then. I've had, The Hate You Give, I made it to the final cut. A movie called 12 Mighty Orphans, I made it into the final of that. That was a movie with Martin Sheen and Luke Wilson. And then I did a movie with Chris Pine called The Contractor, where I had a nice little role in that, where I was his friend that got him kicked out of the army. So, I was glad that things have kind of shifted a little bit since then. But yeah, earlier on, it was rough going with the movies.
I mean, I mentioned it up top about the research, but that makes a lot of sense. That I'm glad you provide that extra piece of context or insight, because you have so many TV credits that I'm like, even if I didn't. I know you get this all the time, but even if I didn't know I've seen you because like so many of the major shows.
Right.
But I know some movies was like a little bit like sporadic or sparse. So that actually makes a lot of sense for how that only started picking up like in the last 10 years or so. Because you're actually fulfilling a little bit of a dream of mine as an avid podcast fan, that I'm sitting here with a guest where I get to be on your IMDb page and have lots of things to talk about or cover. But I'm looking through as you're describing that, and it's like, yeah, I mean, just for the uninitiated, you're incredible better than I do, IMDb, but like, Homeland, Revolution, Vampire Diaries, Red Band Society, Powers, Nashville, Stranger Things, Ozark, The Hate You Give. I mean, you could just go on and on. Like you've really had quite the run for like not just a working actor, but like of some prominence.
Yeah, I've been extremely fortunate, and I'm well aware of that. And that's not something that I take lightly or take for granted, because the industry is extremely competitive, and it's only gotten harder and harder over the years since when I first started, just because of the way technology has gone and the industry has gone. The casting net is so much larger now than it's ever been. Back in the old days, like back in the Dawson's Creek days, when we would drive to Wilmington for an audition or drive to Atlanta for an audition, they were truly just casting out of the Southeast. So it was, my competition was me and the guys in the waiting room, which was going to be 10, 20, 30 people tops, and that's tough enough competition still for one role. Now it's me and the world, and that's not an exaggeration. And I've said this on other interviews. When I audition for a job, it's literally me and 1,000 other people. That's not an exaggeration. So it's at the point now where it's kind of like winning the lottery if you get booked on anything. So that's why I'm extremely appreciative, and I acknowledge when I do get booked how phenomenal that is and how fortunate I am to be in that position, because there were 999 other guys that wanted the job and didn't get it.
And I'm sure a majority of them qualified.
Yeah, I mean, because you get down, trust me, you get down to that final, this is just a general kind of how the process works, and I'm sure that there are casting directors that go, there's more to it than that, and I'm sure that there is, but in a rough sketch is, you have those first 1,000 submissions. That gets whittled down before, a bunch of them, they don't even watch. They're going to go, we look at that thumbnail, your image looks horrible, your lighting looks terrible, we can barely see your face, you're already out before, we even get into your performance. We got to start eliminating people somehow. Then you get to the ones that are like, okay, these are watchable. Then you've got to narrow that down even more and whittle it down even more. So then you get down to that, final 10 or 5 or whatever it is. And once you start with 1,000, you get down to the final 10, any one of those guys could do it. Any one of those actors could do it and do it extremely well. So how do you pick them? So now we're going to get into, you remind me too much of my ex-husband and I hated him and so you're out, whatever. Your one eye looks more to the right than the other one does, so you look weird. And so I've had I've had more times on set when the producers or director came up to me and told me that they cast me for a reason that had nothing to do with my acting. They're like, we loved your last name, so like we've got to cast this guy. We love his last name. Or when I worked on Nashville, and I had a really nice role on Nashville in one of the, like, probably the most critical episode of the series, when Connie Britton, spoiler alert for anybody who's binging Nashville and haven't gotten that far, when she dies. She no longer wanted to be on the show, so, you know, the lead of the series goes, I'm out of here. I was the doctor that could not save her life. And show up first day on set, and the guy who wrote the episode, who's actually an actor that I recognized, and was being directed by, I'm drawing a blank on her name, and it's going to make me sound like an idiot because she won the Academy Award for writing Thelma and Louise. She said, I cast you because you reminded me of the guy who wrote the episode. We looked alike. We were a similar type. She's like, oh, Brian reminded me of you. So that's why we chose him. I can count on very few fingers when someone said, your performance was great. That's why we cast you. You're a really great actor. That's why we cast you. I've hardly ever heard that. Yeah.
There's a lot I want to dive into there. You're getting the wheels turning on a lot of kind of bigger picture topics related to you sharing that. But before we get too far afield, what is Andrew Wade in Ozark? Was that a senator, state senator? I couldn't remember.
Yeah, he was a state senator.
Okay, because I remember I was watching the clips trying to remember the timing of it too. Is I was behind on Ozark, so it was shortly before we got connected that's the point I was at naturally in the show anyway.
Right.
And I was just like, oh my gosh, this. But apparently I'm not a big enough fan to remember that you had longer extended scenes than what is shown on your reels on your website. Right. So, tomato, we got to temper it a little bit, the fandom. Mm-hmm. I'm not running the Brian Lafontaine fan club, but I appreciate the work. So somewhere in the middle. Speaking of the Brian Lafontaine fan club and appreciating your work, though, the thing I want to touch on based on what you shared is something that I've thought a lot about in my own much less prominent context of like creativity and doing stand-up comedy or the podcast or different things, because I heard you share on a, shout out to our friends at Raising a Ruckus podcast, but sharing about being in this type of creative work, specifically acting, but also kind of any work where you're putting yourself out there. There's an element that you want to be seen, you want to be known, you have the confidence, you have the ego, whatever. But in what you're describing, can you speak to, I feel like there's such a dichotomy of, you mentioned staying humble in this type of industry, and we've covered a little bit about how you have been a working actor, but even in a more prominent sense, and there are a lot of people that would love to be in your position, but also how competitive is just that like roller coaster of, oh, I'm so super awesome, but also this is extremely competitive, and they may not even select me for my performance, because I get into my own head thinking about past resume. I hate to use the word entitled, it's maybe too strong, but I feel as though I'm entitled to a better opportunity or because of my past resume or things I've done or the talent or whatever. But then reality sets in, the high level of competition, the weird randomness of humanity and the reasons people make decisions and whatever. Can you just kind of speak to that duality of like so much ego, I'm on screen, look at me in Ozark or whatever, versus like, oh, I'm up against the 999 other people and somebody chose me because they like my last name.
You have to keep all of that in check, because they are, at the end of the day, they're basing these decisions on things that are completely out of your control. You have zero control over any of it at all. I mean, you could be giving the greatest performance in the world, but if you're not right for that particular project, or you don't fit visually what they had in mind, then you're out, And so you do have to have that, you have to have enough self-awareness and as little ego as possible, because, what are some of the more famous ones? Let's see, what the heck was it? The Big Chill. Take The Big Chill, for example. Kevin Costner is the guy in the coffin that you never see. Kevin Costner, one of the biggest box office stars of all time, was cut out of a major motion picture where he was literally, he was arms and sleeves and, slit wrists in a coffin. You never see him. So if that doesn't, on that level, if that doesn't put you in check and bruise your ego a little bit and take you down a peg and be like, look, we love your performances and you're a wonderful actor, but the end product is really not about you. It's not about you. You're here to help tell the story, and you're here to be a part of the, that's why you're saying, what part do I have? I got this part. Anything can change. They can take it in a completely different direction. And while the actor ego is going to be like, man, you took away my performance and all my work and all the, effort and emoting or whatever it was that I wanted to showcase and show off. Yeah. It's not about that at the end at the end product. It's about what's going to be best to tell this story. So you do have to develop a very, very thick skin, and you have to know that nothing is guaranteed and nothing is owed to you. No job is owed to you. And then once you actually get onto the set, no final product or showcase piece is owed to you. They're going to put it together the best way that they need to in order to tell the story that they had intended to tell from the beginning. And if you get to be a part of it in any way, it's, again, it's a victory. It's a gift. It's not, we did this because we owed it to you. I've been cut out of stuff where the director was gushing over what I was doing, and I still didn't make it into the final edit because they had to do what they had to do in order to fit the time slot, fit the time frame, or to just move the story along the best that they could. So it's very, very humbling. But you have to think about, why am I doing this work? Am I doing the work because I love being an actor, or am I doing it because I want people to applaud for me? And there's nothing wrong with wanting to be applauded for the work that you do or being recognized for the work that you do. But if that's the main reason why you're doing it, then you're probably doing it for the wrong reasons. I understand, and again, have gone through this for over 30 years of trying to use, one accomplishment, one achievement in the industry as a stepping stone to hopefully the next level. But again, there are no guarantees for any of that. You want to think like, yeah, I've got enough credits on my resume where I should be seen for, larger things and lead roles. So should a million other actors who have worked just as hard and have given literally their blood, sweat, and tears for it. They eat, breathe, shit, the business and the craft on a level that I probably never have. And they are up against the same things. We could sit here and go through IMDb and look at how many actors that you go, oh my God, this guy's amazing. And you'll find gaps in how long it's been since they've worked. No one is owed anything in this business. If you get to work in it, it's truly a miraculous gift. We're all fortunate to be a part of it. You should be doing it because you want to do it, because you have a passion for it. You have a passion for storytelling. And your ego, needs to take a back seat. And I know that doesn't necessarily compute, but that's really the way that it should be.
Well, it's extremely well said and very you've been doing this 30 plus years, but you can tell that you've worked through all these things and probably grown a lot as a person over that time and really developed in your perspective on these things. And that probably has come from so much thought and time and effort put into viewing your career in a bigger picture sense and wanting to achieve the next great thing and keep climbing up the ladder and dealing with the certain realities and all that kind of stuff. And I imagine, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I imagine there's an element of it too, because I've experienced this in different industries, different degrees, things I pursued, but even the best accolade you could hope to receive, whatever you look back on your career, whatever your pinnacle of recognition was, I'm sure there's an element of it where that was a moment and you have to get up the next day and keep working and keep grinding. You can't necessarily rest in even that for too long. And that's part of keeping it in check, like you said.
Because the industry is so huge. I mean, if you want to think about it just from a regular workplace perspective, if you're trying to move up the corporate ladder, you're moving up the corporate ladder within that building or industry that you're in whatever zip code or neighborhood that you're working in. This industry is truly global. Your coworkers are everybody on the planet who's trying to work in this business. So, when you do the math, and it's my coworkers, are in the millions. So to try and move up that corporate ladder to move to the next level, the competition is truly, it's endless. It's an endless number of people. And people come and go and get introduced to the business later in life, or they leave the business because they've just had enough. I mean, I just realized recently, like, oh, Cameron Diaz left the business, just walked away. And it was like her last movie was in 2014. And I think she just actually is just coming back to it now. I think there's a movie with her and Jamie Foxx that just got released.
Maybe the aptly titled Back in Action, I think is what it's called.
Is that what it is?
I just saw it on my home screen. Yeah. I think that's what.
But it's like, again, this is a woman who was an A-list movie star with, I think 2 Academy Award nominations to her credit and a laundry list of blockbuster movies. And she was just like, no, I'm done. I'm walking away. So, I mean, it's such a fluid business at the same time. You can enter it very, very easily and you can exit it very, very easily. So it's not like going to a law office or any kind of corporate job where, you're applying, you're getting hired by a CEO or whatever it might be. People can come and go in and out in droves, in mass numbers. And so to be able to climb up the corporate ladder of show business is, I can't think of anything harder professionally.
It seems to me, I mean, I've heard you talk about this in regards to your approach with public speaking, and it's something that I've computed too, doing stand-up comedy, is the idea of having fun.
Yes.
And the importance of that, because I was actually, our mutual friend, Craig Collin, local comedian who's incredible comic, incredible human.
Yes, he is.
He and I just had a conversation recently at a mic that was like, I was talking to him about some of the discouragements I've experienced in my extremely short stand-up comedy career of a little over a year or whatever it's been at this point. And just the need to keep going, keep getting up, keep grinding, and just keep having fun with it whenever it's a little bit counterintuitive for something like stand-up comedy. It's an inherently fun thing, but it's performance art. It's, it's show business. It's a grind, albeit a different type of, but it's all still a grind like you described. And such a fluid, people coming in, people coming out. There's so many directions it can go with it. Success, ebbs and flows, all that kind of stuff. And just the importance of having fun. And I've heard you talk about that before. And I see you doing that proactively in regards to your acting career. I see you post on Instagram all the time. I just watched one last night in my researching, just the hilarious scene from that show Powers, where you die like in the first 2 minutes. I laughed out loud. I was like, oh, I got to keep it down.
I love that.
I was like, but you just have fun with it. I mean, can you kind of speak to, that role of having fun and just enjoying your craft?
You have to enjoy it. It has to be fun. Any aspect of show business, whether it's stand-up comedy or being an actor, or being a filmmaker, it's very, very vulnerable. You are investing you're investing your take on things, your emotional experience. You're investing your stories. You're bringing yourself to the work that you do. So it's extremely personal. It's extremely, extremely personal, which is why it can be so difficult when you don't get, the level of success that you hope that, because it's like, my story is just as important as anybody else's. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. It is. It's just that there are so many stories out there. And again, we can only choose one, and we can only choose this many. How do we make that decision on which ones we choose to make our product? Because at the end of the day, it is a business and they're trying to make money. How can we make them, get the most bang for our buck? So that's what makes it really, really difficult, and at the same time, extremely rewarding. So from the perspective of having fun in your work, that's where you're doing it for yourself because you enjoy it. And if you're focusing more on the results of where is this, emotional investment going to take me, then you're going to feel those disappointments a lot more because you're doing it with an end result in mind, as opposed to, I'm just enjoying this moment right now and I'm just having fun being present here in the room. I'm having fun being present with this audience. And I'll tell you a personal story, and I don't know if I've shared this in other interviews or not, but I started out doing stand-up comedy, as I told you. And when I got into the acting business, and it obviously saw there's like, I think I'm actually even better at this than I am doing stand-up. I stopped doing stand-up because I was like, let the people who really, really want to do that. So a few years ago, I decided maybe I should try to get back into stand-up. I'm older now, I'm wiser, I've got all this, life experience and performance experience. I wonder if I'd have a different take or different perspective or something different to offer. And I put my 5 minutes together to go do an open mic, and our good friend Jason King, kind of helped get me through the process and, let me bounce stuff off of him and let me know what was going on in the comedy scene locally at the time. And I went to do this, and I was extremely prepared, like I always am, because I know what it takes to do your 5 minutes on stage and the amount of work and effort that you need to put into it in order to just get through it. Never mind even be successful, but to just pull it off. And I did. I had a huge performance resume behind me, and I had all this experience, and I'm like, come on, I got this. And all these other people who were doing an open mic, I'm like, truly, it's their first time getting up there. Oh, these poor things. And I got up there, and I just blanked, forgot everything, truly forgot everything. The MC introduced me, brought me up on stage. I went up there, and I went fucking dark. Like, I couldn't remember anything. Lost. And it was the most humbling, humiliating, soul-sucking experience that I had in a very, very long time, because I put my ego first. I really did, without realizing what I was doing, as I was going in there going, hey man, watch this. Hey everybody, look at me. Look at the professional. Everybody stand back and look at the professional. And I fucking ate it. And it was my own fault. It was my own undoing. And I destroyed myself after that. Like, I walked out of that building, and if I could have, jumped in front of a bus, not to make light of suicidal thoughts or anything like that, because I'm not saying it was that bad, but I mean, I don't know if I've ever been more angry or disappointed with myself professionally, ever, because I realized within that moment that it was my fault, that it was all my fault. And it wasn't even about, oh, you suck at this. It was like, no, you did it wrong. You dumbass. After all these years and all the things that you've learned, you forgot truly rule number one, and that it's to go and have fun with the audience, not about how wonderful you are and to let them bask in your brilliant performance. It's to be present in the room with your audience because you're enjoying that experience with them. And once I was able to, let my ego heal, and I dusted myself off and I got over myself, I went back a couple weeks later and I fucking crushed it. I blew the roof off of the place, to where the guy who owned the club came over to me, was still laughing, and he was like, oh my God, that was so good. He was like, you can come back anytime that you want. He was like, wow, that was just great. It's a small thing, but it's a huge thing where you have to remember why you're doing it. And this is where I can't emphasize enough. If you're doing it to stroke your own ego and to win the race and to be the best one in the room and to be the star of the show, then I don't know how it's going to go for you. I'm sure that there are people out there who have taken that approach and they've succeeded. But I think those stories are probably very few and far between. I'm a big believer in you've got to be there for the right reasons. And, we're doing it right now. I mean, I'm assistant directing this play over at Theater Charlotte called The Play That Goes Wrong. And maybe, by the time this episode comes out, I don't know if the show will still be up or not. But it is truly an ensemble show where if these actors are not working together and enjoying each other, the show's dead. If somebody tries to steal focus or steal the scene or to make it about them, it's dead. You've got to be doing it for the right reasons.
People couldn't see, but the whole time you were sharing that story, I'm just over here shaking my head in just secondhand anxiety and also secondhand empathy, because I'm simultaneously relating to the incredible roller coaster of emotions you described of like, wow, you go from, wow, they are so honored to be in my presence and they don't even know it.
Totally.
I'd be lying if I said I've never had that thought once in my life. I've had it a few times. Just, you get to a certain point in life where you've achieved things or you've accomplished things or you've grown in self-confidence or I know what my skills and capabilities are. I know what my resume is or whatever. and you kind of get that, a little bit full of yourself in a, you try to keep things in balance, but it goes a little bit too far over that line, and you're like, you're just like the king of the court, like, my subjects.
Yes,
please.
A little bit.
Bask in my presence.
Yep.
And it sounds ridiculous, but it's true, especially if you're somebody that's like, you've done a lot of public type things and you've succeeded. So anyway, I relate to that emotion, which, gives me a little bit of shame personally, but also, I also feel a little bit less alone. So thank you for that.
Absolutely.
But also and that's something, I can be my own worst enemy in that sense. And, sounds like similar for you, and just kind of, that's a human thing, is recognizing those things about yourself, those thought patterns that aren't going to actually help you succeed,
right,
or actually help you connect with people, and overcoming them is always a big thing. But then to have that, to kind of fail, low key or high key fail, or it's just really bad, or it's bad to you or whatever, that's an equal kind of like you're swinging the pendulum back the other way.
Yes.
And then to get to a place that you described of, okay, have fun, number one rule, you get to a more balanced like mental state, and to see the outcome of that. I have gone through that mental process dozens and dozens of times, that exact roller coaster you described, because, we're already kind of deep in it now, but I am somebody that, because of the way I grew up, because of where I come from, because of all these other factors, I've always felt this like kind of, I actually have a joke about it in my stand-up set. I say, like, I'm somebody that's very desperate to be liked. I'm like Will Smith in The Pursuit of Happiness in the back of a limousine trying to solve a Rubik's Cube so that he can, like, provide for his son and stop sleeping in a subway station kind of energy. Right. Like, that's how I think of it for myself. And that comes from this desire to, like, prove myself, to, like, have people see me and know me and be recognized. And, wow, you're so talented and awesome and whatever. And that's fine. Like, that's a good motivator, but only to a certain point intrinsically. And you really have to make that connection into... Now I'm motivating for, external reasons, or more self-actualization reasons, or reasons that are more altruistic, or I want to connect with people or whatever, because I've just found it impossible over time to try to keep riding that roller coaster of I'm awesome, I suck, I'm awesome, I suck. Right. It's just not sustainable. And I'm 36, like I'm younger than you, but I've lived enough life that I'm like, not to put your age.
No, go ahead.
Yeah. We're not saying your age. You're not 36.
I have no problem saying
you're not 36. No. Self-admittedly of your own interview.
Yes.
Yeah, that's great. He's never coming back on the podcast. All right. But the point is, I'm young. I'm in that kind of weird phase. I'm still young. I lived enough life, whatever. So I have that kind of confidence. But I've never experienced something like the anxiety I felt from doing stand-up comedy and watching other people get booked. Or am I good enough? Am I, just going through the machinations of that.
Right.
Even though I had all these things I'd accomplished before it. And it's been a big wake-up call for me. Like, why do I get so depressed or anxious over these kinds of things? And it all came back to, I'm taking a lot of personal wisdom from the things you're sharing, because I'm getting a lot out of it, because it really does come back to, once I remembered, I need to have fun and enjoy this. And a lot of things you talk about in your public speaking coaching, it's like, I feel like I'm in a more healthy place.
Yeah. And the work that we do is very, very personal, and sometimes it's hard to not take it personal. But of course, you've got something worthwhile to share, and you do want to share it. You want to share your story. You want to share your twisted sense of humor. You want to share your perspective on life, or you're a new dad, and that there's tons of material there. And so you're hoping that when you share it, people are going to find it worthwhile or valuable or entertaining or just relatable. Of course you want those things. And it can be challenging, of course, when you see other people sharing their stories, getting that response, but also getting elevated at the same time. Like you're talking about getting booked, or, moving to the next level, or getting other opportunities that you're not getting. And that's where, that ego balance certainly comes into play. And it doesn't make us any less valuable. It doesn't make us any less, reasonable, or what the heck? We all want to, do good things. We all want to be successful. And it's just, what's each person's definition of success? What is success for me? Is it a monetary thing where I'm earning this much, per show or performance or whatever? Or is it the number of opportunities? Or is it just having the chance to do it, knowing that I have a platform, I've got this podcast where I can share my stories and, talk to people that I've never talked to before, and I've got listeners out there. It's just, it's what you're defining it for yourself. And, if you do want to get to this other place and realizing, okay, what's it going to take to get me there? Am I doing enough? Am I not doing enough? And believe me, it never goes away. It never goes away because all of this is
cool.
No, it never goes away. Yeah, get used to it. Because it's all so fragile and it's all so subjective.
Yeah.
It
is. And it's you talking about bearing your soul as an artist. Mm-hmm. I think that's really my first experience of that was playing music for a long time, wanting to make it as a music career. Mm-hmm. I'm a glutton for punishment. I just keep choosing industry after industry that is everything we're talking about.
Right. What's the past less traveled, least taken? I'll go that way.
Yeah, I'll go that way and get mad when I don't experience pure joy and fulfillment all the time.
Right, all the time. That's the thing. We experiencing it all the time. But you do get to experience it. And when you do get to experience it, there's nothing like it. There's
the highs are the highest I've ever experienced in any of these creative industries and the low. Yeah. But so I felt called out by those things that I've heard you share on before where I'm like, man, no wonder this guy's a coach. This is great advice. But then the other thing I've heard you share that I felt called out on is the size of the audience. Mm-hmm. So I want to get into your public speaking coaching that you do. I want to drill down deep on that. So I want you to share about that, give people info, share about that experience, how you get into that and all that good stuff. But my gateway into that is that other thing you shared of the size of the audience not mattering. Mm-hmm. I heard you, again, shout out, Raising a Ruckus in my research, listen to your episodes with our friends there. And I kept listening to these episodes. Normally I'd tune in for a couple minutes. Oh, okay, I get the vibe. But I kept listening because you're sharing such great wisdom and feedback. And it's, even if it's one person, even if I only help one person, those kind of, I work for I'm the national director for a nonprofit. Mm-hmm. The main thing we do is called the Laundry Project. So we do free laundry days in Charlotte. Kind of help families with that.
Phenomenal.
And I've been involved with that organization since I was in college because my family comes from a poverty background and nonprofit world was the thing I connected to the most of wanting to help people, knowing what it was like to kind of struggle in very tangible ways. Yep. And one of the sayings we developed, our organization's called Current Initiatives, is, do what you can as a mantra. Or we call our volunteers hope dealers. Even if you only help one person, all those kind of mantras, because it's so true when it comes to tangible needs. But then I don't know if my brain, and if it did, I forgot, but made the connection you shared about your audience. So you're doing comedy, you're doing a presentation for work, you're doing any kind of, if you connect with one person like that being the goal, I mean.
Yeah, and it sounds very cliche. It's like, that whole, if I can just change one mind, if I can affect one person, if I can just help one person. But it is true. Because, I talk about this in the workshops that I do for public speaking coaching, is that, and it's no different than stand-up comedy in many, many respects. You have no idea how your audience is going to respond. You have no idea. There's no way for you to know. There's so many different elements and dynamics that go into the room on that specific night in the moment, including what you bring to it. So when you are able to understand and grasp that I have no control over this, then you can let it go. It should free you up a little bit more. It's like, I'm here to share something with the audience. I'm here. I prepared something for you, for me to share with you. I'm giving you this gift. How you receive it, or if you like it or not, I have no control over it. So I can't worry about it. Now, that's not the easiest thing to be able to, I don't want to say master because it's like I haven't mastered it, but I understand it more now. So all I can do is come in here and give you what I've prepared and hope for the best. If you like it, great. If you don't, I did the best that I could, and I did this for you. Where was I going with this? So in regards to public speaking, again, I have no idea who's going to show up for the workshop. I have no idea who's going to be in the room. I don't know what level that they're working on. And all I can bring to the work that I do when I'm working with people on public speaking is my experience, my expertise, my years of knowledge of being in front of an audience and how to make that work and how to navigate that. It might help everybody in the room. It might help no one in the room, But if and it doesn't matter if there's one person or 1,000 people. If they showed up, they've got an interest in what I'm speaking about. They've got an interest in the subject or the topic of public speaking. They want to get better at it. They want to gain more information about it. So it's my responsibility to have something on that subject that's worthwhile to share with them. That's what it's all about. They came to see me. They came to see me because they wanted to find out what information I have that maybe they don't have. So it's my responsibility to give them everything that I've got, regardless of the size of the audience and the number of people in the room. Again, that's where the ego comes into play. And it's like, oh, there's only 4 people here. They're not worth my time. They absolutely are, because they showed up for you. I don't know how else to say it.
At the risk of ironically inflating your ego with this statement, you are one of the more nice and personable and willing to connect and empathize with people.
Thank you. That
people
really
I've
does.
interacted with, and I'm trying to cut to the heart of this here, because I understand that the I actually had, not to, just for you to have this context, I actually have a bit where I'm like, oh, somebody complimented me on a talk recently, said I'm a very humble guy. And that's such a weird thing to be complimented on, because you just have to say thank you. But inside, your ego's like, haha, the deception is delicious. Like an old-timey cartoon villain.
Right.
Because I just think about that duality a lot. Even in me, there's this whole duality to it, but you are that kind of person. And I guess what I'm most curious about is the why. Why get into coaching people on public speaking? Why take your career in your life and do things that are meant to help other people and empower them and help them grow, when you've ridden that wave of trying to achieve personal success and ego and wanting to hit the highest of highs? And it's a reductive word, but maybe more selfish pursuits, let's say. How do you, Brian, as a person, how do you make that shift into I want to be somebody that's empowering of other people? Why is that so important to you? Because that seems to be genuinely who you are as a person, and I aspire to be like you very much so in that regard.
That's an extremely wonderful compliment, and I believe me, I take that all to heart. It means more than you could ever possibly know. Because if you're not willing to truly share your gifts so that it benefits somebody else in some way, then you're squandering everything. It's the whole bigger picture. Because somebody wants to be where you are. Somebody aspires to walk in your footsteps or follow the path that you've carved out for yourself, because they see value in it. They see where it can go. They see what the possibilities are. And for me to just hold that and keep it all to myself as a secret, and it's no, I'm not sharing any of this. It's mine. It's mine. It's mine. That's horrible. It's just, I don't know what else. It's a terrible way to approach things. I'm not the only one here. And if I'm here to just, feed my own ego and to just take care of myself and to just stay sheltered into my own little world of it's all about me and nobody else, then that fucking sucks. That absolutely sucks. Then I don't understand why anybody would want to be in an audience of a performance that I'm in, because I'm clearly not doing it for their benefit. I'm not doing it for their entertainment. I'm not doing it for their joy at all. I'm doing it for myself. I've been doing this for so long that I know what it's like to have that unbelievable experience of taking an audience on this adventure, this journey to tell this story, and to have them get caught up in what I'm doing, so that they walk away with this wonderful experience that they get to have. We're in the room together. You and I are in this room together. This interview, while I'm the guest on the show, this isn't about just me. This is you and I having a shared experience together. So for me to take that from you and be like, Corey, give me a moment. I have, wisdom to drop. Fuck that.
I'm like, will you come on the show? You're like, wait, how many listeners do you have? What?
And the reason why the whole public speaking venture came up is that, I'm an independent performing artist. I'm self-employed. I'm an independent contractor. We're trying to get work and keep the lights on and the roof over our heads, any way that we can, just like everybody else, because in the 30 plus years of my career, there hasn't been a day where I've known if I'm going to have work the next day. Never, not once. And somehow I've found a way to be okay with that. There are a lot of people who look at me and they're like, how the hell have you lasted this long? Honestly, I don't know. I think it's just I got used to it. And I was also having, some success. So where I was just putting faith out into the universe that it's like, okay, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. I'm obviously doing something right. So let's keep it going. But I've never taken it for granted to where I'm like, it'll always be there. So, I've always been trying to find ways to, what happens if, God forbid, I wake up one day and it's like, oh, Brian, you're done. We don't need you anymore. We don't want you anymore. Then what am I qualified to do? What can I do with all this, these decades of experience as an entertainer, as a performer, as an actor? And I was talking to a friend of mine and they said, have you ever thought about, offering your services as a public speaking coach? And it was just like somebody hit me in the face with a brick. It was like a no-brainer because there is not even, a connection. There's a direct connection between speaking publicly from a corporate presentation or keynote, TED Talk standpoint, as there is, giving a performance in stand-up or doing a play or doing a scene in a movie or a TV show. There's no difference. So it was taking the same skill set that I have acquired over these 30 plus years and just offering it to a different clientele. Especially in this day and age where everybody has a platform, whether it be podcasts or social media or whatever, and they're trying to get their message out. And there's so much noise, for lack of a better term, of people, everybody's doing, look at me, look at me, look at me. I've got something to say. I've got a message. I've got something that's worthwhile for you. How do you separate yourself from everybody else? How do you stand out? And most people in the professional world, in the corporate professional world, don't have that stage experience, that performance experience, or have that confidence of standing in front of an audience and feeling confident enough to be able to speak freely about something that they're passionate about, something that they care about. And that's the thing, is that if you're speaking in any way, hopefully you're speaking about something that you care about. It means something to you. And not everybody has the tools and the skills to be able to convey that message the way that they want, in the most impactful way that they want. There's a lot of, screwed up mindsets that go along with it that, it's like we've got to sift it. It's just like doing stand-up where you go up there and you're like, I've got to be the funniest person in the room. No, you don't. You just got to be present. Like we talked about, you've got to be in there to go and have fun with the audience. And that's not something that somebody can just, flip the switch and go, oh, I get that. It takes practice. It takes time. It takes work. It takes effort. I'll compare it to any other profession that you want to, whether it be stand-up comedy or sports or, being a doctor or a lawyer. You've got to take the necessary steps and do the necessary work to become skillful at it, to become proficient at it. And I've been doing this for so long, and I've been, whether it be live on stage in front of a live audience or working within a small box, that fits into your TV screen, and having to work in that medium and with the same purpose in mind, to keep your audience's attention, to keep your audience engaged. If I'm not qualified to do that, then I don't know who is. And the reason why I do it to help other people is because, I've seen the results from it. And yeah, from an ego standpoint, to be able to help that one person is just as rewarding and as gratifying as anything that I've ever done. To see somebody else succeed is amazing. Just to know that I had a hand in it in some way. And I'm not waiting for somebody to shout me out. I'm not waiting for somebody to pat me on the back. But to know that I helped you achieve a goal that you were striving for, that you couldn't reach on your own. And if I can help somebody get there, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. That's what it's about. That's the name of the game.
It's funny because we're all going to die one day. Spoiler alert.
No, and not.
But I imagine, I don't know if you've ever thought about it like this. I will make a confession to you that I definitely have in some of the works I've created. But in a way, you get to live on through your film work.
Yeah, I know. Right?
Have you thought of it that way before?
I did. When I made it, my first big TV break was in From the Earth to the Moon for HBO. And it was a miniseries that Ron Howard and Tom Hanks made, again, back in the late 1900s. And it won every award in sight, and it was a huge, huge success. And I was just so ecstatic to be a part of it. And I had a really, really nice role in one of the episodes. And when it first came out, I think it was my brother who said, "You've been immortalized on film," and I was like, "Holy shit, I have." That's going to exist for as long as, electricity is available. My face is going to be accessible. My performances are going to be accessible until the end of time. That's crazy to think about.
It is. And it's 100% true. I've thought about that in regards to this podcast. Very morbid thought, but, God forbid something happens to me. My daughter will have these to go back and listen to. And
right.
You get immortalized through the things you create in a lot of ways. I bring that up, though, because I've also had this thought. Tell me if you have had this thought or can relate to this, but that is true and important and fun and like such a cool thing. And I feel like everything we're talking about with what you pour back into other people, I feel like that's the more unseen, intangible. From going back to my biblical studies, it would be like, the fruit of your relationship with God or thing. Because I majored in like theology and youth ministry and stuff in college. But it would be the similar idea of, you disciple somebody or you have this fruit, and it can reveal itself through generations. The more like you invest your life into someone, that concept, take that to what you're doing. I feel like there's that element of you get to be immortalized through the people you help and assist. It may not be as like prominent or on screen, but have you ever thought about that way too, that like this is an equal or maybe more impactful way to immortalize myself, is to like have my legacy live on through these folks that I've tried to help or inspire or work with?
I haven't necessarily thought about it in that specific term, but I'm going to use the term that, I think we're all pretty familiar with now, that my lovely partner reminds me of when I get frustrated or things aren't happening fast enough. The ripple effect. Being able to help someone, even though if it's just in this moment, nobody sees it, nobody hears about it, but you have no idea what effect that could have in the broader picture of what that's going to, potentially help that person to do. They could go on and do something amazing and that they never even realized because of the tiniest bit of influence that you may have had on that person. Or yes, from a more ego-driven standpoint, that person might go out and be like, "Hey, I worked with Brian and I had this experience and it changed this for me and it changed that for me." And it's like, if you're struggling with this, then know that there's a resource out there in this guy, and he can help you with, whatever you're struggling with or whatever hurdles or obstacles that you're having a hard time overcoming in that particular area. So it could end up being that you get more opportunities to help somebody else. And again, selfishly, be able to, build your business and keep the lights on a little bit longer and stay alive a little bit longer. You never know how the work that you're doing, the efforts that you're making, are having an effect on a much broader scale than you can even imagine or maybe just never even thought of.
I like that. I like the way you put that a lot better. A, because it reminds me of the 2022 Apple TV Plus Christmas film Spirited.
So good.
Yeah. Thank you.
Love it.
A shocking low amount of people have seen that. So I'm glad you have.
God, it's my favorite now.
It became a Christmas tradition very, very quickly for our family. I love it. That literally have a whole musical number about creating a ripple. That's the whole kind of spoiler alert. Sorry, but that's like the whole kind of theme is. Mm-hmm. And I remember resonating with that and loving that so much, and the way you put it with the ripple effect, because you're right. There's that we're humans. We're always going to think there's always going to be some element of our ego and leaving a legacy, immortalizing ourselves. That's ingrained in every single one of us. But I like the way you put it about the ripple effect, because to me that decentralizes the process a bit, and it makes it more of this is about me, this is about others, but it's about all of us together. And the ripples you can have. And I really enjoyed that aspect of that movie for that reason, because it's about the way we collectively impact one another, hopefully for the positive, for the better.
Yeah. Again, we're all hopefully trying to make the world a better place. From a survival standpoint, I do these things because I'm just trying to tread water and keep my head above water and stay alive and stay sane just like everybody else. But hopefully there's a purpose behind it, and we're working towards a greater good, and whatever that means to you. I could certainly go off on a tangent and go down a different rabbit hole of just, the world and the way that it is and the way people relate and all that stuff. And, at the end of the day, I think we're all in this together, and we are all we're supposed to be here to support each other. I don't care in what capacity or, what your belief system is or isn't. Somebody asked me about a year ago, like I forget what the heck it was. It's like,
I like how you said heck after dropping like 10 F-bombs. You're like,
right.
Now's the time to pull back.
Yeah, exactly. But it was something along the lines of, like, what's your purpose in life or something like that. I can't remember if exactly that was what how the question was phrased. And my answer was to just help anybody that I could in some way. I was like, I don't root against anybody. I don't. I want everybody to succeed. We can go for a few more minutes. This is great. I
just made a hand gesture. Are you okay on time?
Right.
Not so subtle.
I truly do. I want the best for everybody. I want the best for everybody. I don't root against anyone, or I try not to root against anyone. I don't care where you are, whatever room that you're in. Why would I want nothing but the best for any fucking person in the room, in the space, lives next door to me, driving in traffic, even when I'm yelling at you because you're the worst fucking driver in the world? I truly want nothing but the best for you. I really don't. Why would I want anything different? Because I have nothing to gain from that.
I'm so glad you brought that up, and I'm so glad we have a few more minutes to unpack it. Because I just, that idea of rooting for other people. Are you familiar with the author Shea Serrano?
No.
Okay,
maybe I am. I don't know.
He's written like movies and other things, basketball and other things, rap yearbook. He's done a lot of.
Okay.
They're really cool. I have all his books. He's a great author, but I've seen him like post on social media before, just in his musings, that like, there's enough, like, we can all win, basically. Mm-hmm. There's enough for all of us to win.
Yes.
And I think about that a lot and what you said, because that's the other push and pull in everything we're talking about is the otherness, the people you're competing with.
Right.
The 999 other people auditioning, the 15 other comics at the mic that want to spot in the next booking, the showcase or whatever. Like, it's that perpetual competition. Or you get on social media, that's the worst place of all for my brain is like, oh my God, they got I always tell myself, the less I'm on social media, the less I feel like I'm a piece of garbage, to be honest, because it's just a constant comparison.
Right.
I was made to spit your water in the mic.
I get that.
But I'm glad you touched on that, because I feel like there's so much freedom in that. What you described is, we're talking about ego and all these like heady concepts. And at the end of the day, it's like, the more you are able to truly support each other and root for other people to have wins and have victories, and you take the mirror off of your own, even for a little bit, and you're willing to shine the light on somebody else.
Yep.
I feel like there's so much more freedom in that. And ironically, I feel like it does return to you. Like, it does pay you back in dividends. Again,
it's like, I know what it's like to have that high of, succeeding in front of an audience. I know what that feels like. I know what it feels like to get booked on a movie. I know what it's like to get booked on a TV show. I know what it's like to have an entire country hear your voice, see your face in something that is really well recognized and applauded. I know what that's like. Why would I not want to wish that on everybody to have that experience, or to begrudge somebody when they get it when I didn't? It's like, I know what that feels like. That feels amazing. Why wouldn't I want everybody to feel that way? Even if it means that, okay, this one, I've got to sit on the bench for this one. I've been there before. I know what it's like. Hopefully I'll be back there again. They're having their moment. They're having their, whatever, if you want to call it their 15 minutes of fame or whatever. Maybe it's the first step into a fucking rocket ship of a career. That's theirs. This is mine. I can't control anything else. So I'm going to applaud you every opportunity that I get.
Was this I know the answer, but I'm asking it in an intentional way. Was this an overnight thing for you to jump the Maslow hierarchy of needs into self-actualization? Or did it take years of thinking and doing the opposite?
No.
I'm just curious how you even got to, because I don't mean this lightly. I really do strive to be like you in a lot of the things you're putting out there. and they're thoughts I've had a lot. Like listening to you talk is like hearing my own inner monologue sometimes. Like it's freaky, but like the good side of it, the helpful side of my inner monologue.
Good.
Yeah. The one I should listen to more, but thinking about that, like, cause in my 20s and like my public speaking experience early on and a lot of my leadership opportunities and growth early on came in a church context.
Mm-hmm.
I worked in a church. I gave sermons. I was a part of all kinds of leadership things. I thought about church planning even at one point.
Okay.
Like there's this whole part of my story, which was the disparate things you get involved in, like the rabbit hole I went down with all your. It's always funny to me because this could be a whole other conversation, but it's always funny to me, like the things you don't realize connect, like how giving sermons in rural Ohio prepared me to do stand-up comedy in Charlotte.
Of course.
I'm sure you've experienced that. I know but to the point of the question I'm asking is like, you know, I was lucky enough to have folks early on that were older, wiser, more experienced, whatever, just be like, you know, the goal of a leader is to be empowering of other people, but also to figure out the ways you need to grow. I have a lot of friends that work for a company called Giant Worldwide. It's like leadership coaching and stuff. They talk a lot. They frame it as looking at the broccoli in your own teeth and just trying to figure out how others are perceiving you, not in a full of yourself way, but just like how can I get better? How can I grow?
Yeah.
While also just so I hear that a lot of what you're saying is like, there's that self-actualization piece of growing, getting better, healing, I'm saying for me, not for you, I don't know your experience, but like going to therapy, like trying to dig in, do the work. I've heard you talk about that. Shout out Raising Ruckus, shout out How to 20-something with Jess Diamond. Those are both the episodes I listened to, but I've heard you, and I was engrossed in them because of the wisdom, but I've heard you talk about like as an actor, like learning how to connect to a character, connect to a part, empathy. So you're doing all this internal work. I'm trying to dig into it in a very long-winded way as I want to do, of just like, you've done so much interpersonal growth work and now it's like having this external effect. And I'm just curious how you view, maybe you don't view them as in the same way I do, as you would term it that way, but just how you got to this place of more growth and self-actualization, how you dug in the depths of your own despair and anxiety and depression and ego. I just think it's impressive whenever I talk to somebody like you that's even in a place mentally to look at others and say, how can I help them? How can I be there for them? And I know it takes a lot of personal growth effort to get there.
Yeah, I mean, make no mistake, I'm still a freaking mess. I'm still a mess. I'm just as screwed up as the next person. I still have the inner demons and struggles and self-doubt and imposter syndrome. And, I think I'm a hack in so many ways. But it does. The only thing that I can say is that it comes with time and life and experience and falling on your face and getting back up and trying it again and falling again and getting back up and having success and falling again. And I mean, all the things that remind you that you're a human. You're going to make mistakes. There's no way that we can master any of this. We can't master any of it, man. This is getting really deep now, isn't it? Yeah.
That's what we do here on the Easter Pod.
There you go. So it's all just a constant work in progress. And again, I know that sounds very cliche, but I mean, you can't do this by yourself. You can't do any of this by yourself. You need people to collaborate with. You can't be creative, in a vacuum. You can't be creative just completely on your own. When I started playing piano, I use that loosely, when I was in my early 40s. And, I was just kind of playing in my living room off of YouTube and, lessons and things like that. And it was fun and it was good. And I learned how to play Piano Man and this and that. And then I had a musician say to me, he was like, if you want to just, play in your living room for yourself, and he's like, that's cool and that's great. He's like, but if you've never performed with other musicians before, he's like, there's nothing like it. And being a musician yourself, I'd be shocked if you said anything different. There is nothing like it. There's nothing like having the creative experience or just the expressive experience or just having those moments of shared interest and collaboration, community, whatever you want to call it, together with other people from other walks of life and other, perspectives and viewpoints and interests and belief systems, where you see these people that can come together and share something wonderful together. you know, all of that comes with time and experience. You can go, yes, I'm going to do this on my own. I'm an island. It's all about me. And I think you're going to find within a short amount of time that, you know, that's going to be a very, very short road. And it's like, if you don't take advantage and become curious about the rest of the people and world and opportunities around you, and seeing what other people's experiences are and how you can even gain from other people's experiences. My performances have gotten better because of things that I've learned from other people and learned about other people and just experienced and seen other people go through. They've had an effect on me that have made my work better. So if you're not going to let yourself be open to those things, then again, you're limiting yourself. You're really, really limiting yourself to what you're capable of doing and sharing.
Yeah, and you made two key points there of it's not a linear, I think that's very much how I viewed it in my 20s. It's not a linear progression of you just wake up one day and you're like, oh, I've mastered what it means to be human. You're always going to struggle. It's till the day you die. There's a ongoing internal battle and having to like relearn lessons and do all for sure. That's a great point. And then the point of community, you know, the chemistry you have playing with other musicians or acting with other humans, or you don't act, I mean, you might for a voiceover job, but you don't tend to act by yourself of, you know, you're playing off of other people sometimes, you know.
Right.
Not, I know it varies, but I just mean generally speaking.
Yes.
Like, there's always a chemistry,
right.
Even if it's your chemistry with the material you're performing. Like I feel that way with the stand-up. Like it's words on a page, but I still have to have like a felt chemistry with it. And
it's the same thing, you know, doing voiceover. You want to use that example. It's like when I'm doing voiceover work, you know, and it can be a commercial for, you know, whatever, Band-Aids or something like that, that seems very, you know, superficial. I have to remember that this message is going to go out and be heard by people. So I still have to perform it in a way that's going to be relatable to the listening audience whenever they might be, you know, catching this commercial. So I've got to keep that in mind. It's not just I go into robot mode. It's like, let me just spit out these words. No, I've got to try and do it as if I'm speaking to someone else in the room. So again, creatively, I have to create that stuff in my head to create that audience. So yeah, none of this is done solo in any way, shape, or form.
No, and you made another important point about learning from other people. I think about that all the time. Like, what if I flip my mentality of, oh, that person X that I am jealous that they got that opportunity, or they seem to be having more success, or whatever. What if I flipped it and I'm like, what can I actually learn from them? Mm-hmm. That's always like sometimes it's just those little, for whatever reason, it's how my weird brain works, but I view it as just like little tweaks on the soundboard, like we were setting our monitors and stuff, just turning the dials a little bit. And it's like, what if I tweak that thought I'm having into like, oh, what if I try to learn from that person instead of being like rampantly jealous of them and feeling like crap about myself? Yeah. And it's always transformational. I'm so bummed out because I'm enjoying the fuck out of this conversation.
Attaboy.
I had to get one in.
Attaboy.
But you know, we got to wrap up. But I just can't thank you enough, not just for coming on and sharing what an impressive guy you are and all your
go on
cool stuff. Oh, stop. Go on.
Yeah.
All the stuff you've been a part of. But I really appreciate any guest, and especially yourself, that's willing to jump into the big picture, you know, the 30,000 foot of creative. Because I'm not an actor. I've acted in one thing to my credit so far. That, you know, we'll see where it goes. I mean, you know, I'm using you as a stepping stone. I know Brian, so I'm going to I'm just kidding. I'm making a joke while we were talking about it.
I'm here to help.
Making a joke
in any way I can.
Talking about climbing the career ladder. So just we're all using each other. No, but so the point being is that there's crossover in all these kind of creative disciplines and pursuits, and the things that it causes you to learn about yourself, about other people, the way you learn to relate to other people, humanity. So I appreciate your willingness to go into those depths with me as well, of that self-reflection, but also the work you've put out there and kind of how it all connects and relates. And I've said it earlier, but I'll say it again. You are very much someone that embodies a lot of the value and mission of this podcast, which is you're somebody that empowers other people. You inspire others to be creative. You inspire hope in other people. Like it may seem like public speaking, but just listening to you describe your work in other situations and the people you've worked with, the hope of helping someone overcome their fears or like coaching them to that next step of their own self-actualization. You do all of that. And I know you're an imperfect person. I know you got your resume, you empower people, all this stuff. I know you're a human being, I know we're all flawed and whatever, but I appreciate your willingness to go to those depths and discuss those things, because that, I guess the point I was trying to drive home is that does come from all your time and years of experience and willingness to do that by yourself in the mirror, but also, trying to connect with others. And it shines through really in the work that you do.
I can't thank you enough for saying those nice things. I really, really appreciate that. So I certainly feel that way. And it's nice to know that other people, that it's translating that way to other people as well. And I'm just grateful that, again, I'm grateful that I have the opportunity to have this conversation with you and to hopefully have an impact on somebody listening, and even in the smallest way. So it truly is. It's my honor. It is my privilege to do it. Thanks.
If people want to learn more, get connected, classic final podcast question.
Yep.
Where can they follow your work? Where can they support you, like financially, of actually purchasing coaching, like all the ways to get connected with Brian?
You can find me at my website at brianlafontaine.com. You can email me at brianlafontainecoaching@gmail.com. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on Facebook. I really don't spend a whole lot of time there anymore. But just reach out. Drop me a DM. I'd be happy to just say hi to you.
Well, hey, you accepted my friend request. That's all.
Heck yeah.
All that matters. Thank you, Brian, again, so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Got it. Thanks, Corey.